Have you ever found yourself wondering how crucial an ombudsman's decision can be? The role of an ombudsman is a significant one, often overlooked until you find yourself in the midst of a dispute that seems impossible to resolve. The ombudsman steps in as a neutral party to investigate complaints about maladministration and service failure. Their role is to determine whether an injustice has been caused due to fault, and if so, suggest a remedy. An ombudsman's decision isn't a mere suggestion. It carries authority, influencing the course of events and shaping policies. It's not just about settling disputes, it's about upholding fairness and justice. It's about ensuring that individuals like Mr. X in our example aren't left in the lurch, struggling with unmet needs and unheeded complaints. When an ombudsman upholds a complaint, it's not just a win for the complainant, it's a wake-up call for the institution in question, a call for improvement and change. In Mr. X's case, the Ombudsman's decision led to the Council reassessing their approach to care and support needs, reminding their staff of their duties in relation to assessments. It's a ripple effect that could change the way the Council operates, potentially benefiting countless others in the future. It's also a beacon of hope for those who might feel their voices aren't being heard. An Ombudsman's decision is a testament to the power of speaking up, of standing your ground when you believe you've been wronged. It's a reminder that there are structures in place to ensure that every complaint is heard, every injustice addressed. An ombudsman's decision is also a mechanism for accountability. It ensures that institutions like councils are held responsible for their actions. It's a safeguard, a check and balance that ensures power isn't misused and that public bodies fulfill their obligations to the people they serve. So as you can see, an ombudsman's decision is not just a resolution, it is a statement that carries weight and has far-reaching implications. It's a testament to the power of fairness, justice, and the importance of holding institutions accountable for their actions. Now, let's delve into the journey leading up to this ombudsman's final decision. Mr. X, a resident of the London Borough of Camden, found himself in a situation where he felt his care and support needs were not being adequately addressed by the council. Despite his attempts to communicate his needs and the urgency of his situation, the council failed to act, leading him to lodge a complaint. The council's approach towards Mr. X's case is a textbook example of a lack of flexibility. Instead of understanding and adapting to Mr. X's situation, they stuck to an inflexible approach that did not consider his individual circumstances. This rigidity became a significant barrier to Mr. X's participation in his own assessment process. Now, let's take a moment to understand the importance of a care and support needs assessment. It's a process designed to identify an individual's needs, how these needs impact their well-being, and the outcomes they hope to achieve in their daily life. This is a critical process as it sets the foundation for the support and care provided by the council. However, Mr. X's journey to get this assessment was fraught with challenges. His advocate requested reasonable adjustments to begin the assessment, but these were not acknowledged by the council. The council's response was a glaring missed opportunity to assess Mr. X and understand his unique needs. This wasn't just a one-time oversight. There were multiple instances where the council could have stepped in to assess Mr. X, but they failed to do so. This inaction led to a frustrating delay, putting unnecessary barriers in Mr. X's path. The impact of the council's failure to act was not just procedural. It had real, tangible effects on Mr. X's life. He was left without any services to meet his pressing needs. The council's delay in conducting his assessment and the uncertainty about when it would take place added to his stress, negatively affecting his health. In addition to his care and support needs, Mr. X also found himself facing the council's unreasonable refusal to issue him a blue badge. This badge is an essential tool for people with mobility issues, providing them with better access to parking facilities. The council's refusal to issue the blue badge further complicated Mr. X's situation, adding another layer to his complaint. So we see a series of missteps by the council: a failure to assess Mr. X's needs, a rigid approach to his assessment, delays, and a lack of communication. All these factors combined to create a situation where Mr. X felt ignored and sidelined. His needs were not being met, and his health was suffering as a result, but it didn't end there. The council's actions, or rather their lack of action, didn't just affect Mr. X. They also violated the principles set out by the CARE Act of 2014, which mandates councils' responsibilities to assess the needs of adults in their area. By failing to carry out their duties, the council was in breach of this act. In the face of these challenges, Mr. X did what any individual would do when they feel their rights are not being upheld. He turned to the Ombudsman, an independent body that investigates complaints about maladministration and service failure. Mr. X lodged his complaint, hoping for a resolution to his predicament. This journey to the Ombudsman's final decision was not an easy one. It was marked by frustration, delay, and a lack of understanding on the part of the Council. But Mr. X's determination to fight for his rights and the Ombudsman's commitment to justice set the stage for the final decision. So, the Council's failure to act appropriately and timely led Mr. X to seek help from the Ombudsman. Now, we need to understand the complaint lodged by Mr. X and the role of the Ombudsman in this scenario. Mr. X, a member of the London Borough of Camden, had a grievance. He argued that the council had failed in its duty to assess his care and support needs. The council, he said, had not made the reasonable adjustments requested by his advocate to start the assessment process. This oversight, he claimed, created a barrier to his participation in the assessment, causing unnecessary delays and frustration. More than just a bureaucratic mix-up, this failure had real, tangible effects on Mr. X's life. He was left without any services to meet his urgent needs. The council had given no clear indication of when it would initiate the assessment, leaving Mr. X in a state of limbo. The lack of support and the stress of the situation were taking a toll on his health. Adding insult to injury, Mr. X's request for a blue badge, which would grant him easier access to parking, was unreasonably denied by the council. And that's where the Ombudsman comes in. The Ombudsman is an independent authority who investigates complaints about maladministration and service failure, or in simpler terms, when a public service or organization does something wrong or fails to do something it should have done. To put it another way, the Ombudsman is the referee in disputes between individuals and the powers that be. In the case of Mr. X, the Ombudsman was tasked with sifting through the details of his complaint and the Council's response to it to determine if there was any fault. The Ombudsman examined the complaint made by Mr. X and the documents he provided. The Council's comments about the complaint and the documents it provided in response to the Ombudsman's enquiries were also taken into account. The Ombudsman doesn't just look at what went wrong, though. They also consider the impact of the fault on the person making the complaint. This is referred to as injustice. If there has been a fault that has caused an injustice, the Ombudsman may suggest a remedy. This could be anything from an apology to changes in procedure to prevent the same thing from happening to someone else in the future. In the case of Mr. X, the Ombudsman gave both him and the Council an opportunity to comment on the draft decision, taking their responses into account before making a final decision. So, the Ombudsman stepped in to investigate the complaints and assess whether there was any fault on the Council's part. Scene script. Having understood the complaint and the role of the Ombudsman, let's now examine the Ombudsman's final decision. The Ombudsman, after a thorough investigation, upheld Mr. X's complaint about the failure to assess his care and support needs. The Council was found to have missed multiple opportunities to assess Mr. X's situation. They were also deemed to have failed in taking a flexible approach towards his assessment. It caused undue delay, which further frustrated Mr. X and put a strain on his health. The Ombudsman's investigation revealed that the Council failed to make reasonable adjustments that Mr. X's advocate had requested for the assessment to begin. This not only delayed the assessment, but also left Mr. X without any services to meet his urgent needs. The complaint also extended to the Council's refusal to issue Mr. X with a blue badge. The blue badge scheme is designed to help people who have difficulty moving around by providing them with access to parking spaces that are closer to their destination. In light of these findings, the Ombudsman concluded that there was a fault on the Council's part, which led to an injustice towards Mr. X. The Council's failure to carry out an assessment of Mr. X's care and support needs, coupled with its inflexible approach and lack of reasonable adjustments, amounted to maladministration and service failure. To remedy this injustice, the Council was directed to assess Mr. X as far as it could, based on the information it already held about him. It was also asked to consider Mr. X's capacity to engage in an assessment and assess whether there were any safeguarding concerns. Moreover, the Council was told to apologize to Mr. X for the stress and inconvenience caused by its failures. The Council was also instructed to remind its staff of their duties in relation to carrying out assessments in order to prevent such instances from happening in the future. The Ombudsman's decision was not just a victory for Mr. X, but also a reminder to councils everywhere about their responsibilities and duties. This decision served as a wake-up call for the Council. It was a stark reminder that a lack of flexibility and delay in providing services can lead to unnecessary suffering and can negatively impact the health and well-being of the individuals they are supposed to serve. In conclusion, the Ombudsman's decision was a comprehensive one, addressing not only the specific complaints of Mr. X, but also pointing out the broader issues within the Council's approach. It set a precedent for how similar complaints should be handled in the future, emphasizing the importance of swift action, flexibility, and the need for councils to carry out their responsibilities diligently. This decision by the Ombudsman not only upheld Mr. X's complaint, but also led to some significant changes. Now that we've seen the decision, let's discuss its implications. This decision by the Ombudsman illustrates the power that such an office can wield in ensuring that public bodies, like the Council, meet their responsibilities. The implications of this decision are profound, not just for Mr. X, but for the Council and the wider public as well. First, the Council is required to assess Mr. X's care and support needs based on the information it already possesses. This is a significant shift in the Council's previous approach, which had been marked by delay and a lack of flexibility. The Ombudsman's decision makes it clear that such inaction is unacceptable. This forces the Council to promptly reassess Mr. X's situation, using the information at its disposal. The Council can no longer hide behind procedural delays or inflexibility. This sets a precedent for future cases, ensuring that all individuals awaiting assessments can expect their existing information to be utilized to its fullest extent. Next, the Council must apologize to Mr. X. This is more than a simple act of contrition. In a sense, this apology symbolizes acknowledgement of failure. It signifies that the Council accepts its mistakes and is committed to rectifying them. This public act of humility is a potent reminder to all public bodies that they are accountable to the individuals they serve, reinforcing the importance of public service and the duty of care they owe to the public. Furthermore, the Council is required to consider Mr. X's capacity to engage in an assessment. This underlines the importance of a person-centered approach in delivering public services. It emphasizes that public bodies must take into account the unique circumstances and abilities of each individual when designing and delivering their services. It underscores the need for flexibility and adaptability in public service delivery, ensuring that services are accessible and effective for all. The decision also instructs the Council to reassess any safeguarding concerns. This is critical, as it emphasizes the Council's duty to protect vulnerable individuals. It serves as a reminder that public bodies have a responsibility to not only provide services, but to also ensure the safety and well-being of the individuals they serve. This reinforces the Council's duty to be vigilant in identifying and addressing any potential risks or threats to an individual's safety and well-being. Lastly, the Council is directed to remind its staff of their duties in relation to carrying out assessments. This is an important step towards ensuring that such failures do not recur. It underscores the need for ongoing training and awareness among staff members about their responsibilities. It emphasizes the importance of a competent, informed workforce in delivering high-quality public services and the value of ongoing training and education in achieving this. In essence, the implications of this decision go beyond the immediate case of Mr. X and the Council. They reverberate throughout the public sector, reinforcing the principles of accountability, person-centered service, safeguarding, and staff competence. They underscore the pivotal role of the Ombudsman in holding public bodies to account and ensuring that they deliver on their responsibilities. So, the implications of this Ombudsman's decision are far-reaching and will lead to significant changes in the way the Council operates.